Hi everyone, it's Maeve. Today we're going to be going over my May reading wrap up. This last month I participated in a readathon called Horror Mayhem, and I think the theme was Decades of Dread. I heard about this readathon from Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and I will have his channel linked down below. And I'll have more information on the readathon below as well. I just did it based on what I heard from Greg's channel. So I'll start with that after I go through my stats for the month. So in May, I read 18 short stories, 10 books, and out of those 10 books, 4 of them were DNFs. So I'm at my typical like 6 books for the month. And also of those 10 books, 3 of them were recommended to me by other booktubers, loosely recommended. They're books that I heard about from other booktubers. One of them was directly recommended to me from other booktubers. And then 1 book is going to be an unhaul. 3 of the books are books off of my shelves, and all 18 short stories are from books off of my shelves. You can probably see some of them here. So let's start with Horror Mayhem. I already had a lot of these like horror collections on my shelves, and so the earliest decade I did was the 1810s. I read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. It was published in 1819, and I gave the story a 4 stars. I really love the writing of it. I feel like I've heard The Legend of Sleepy Hollow a few times before, but he has really beautiful writing. It's very descriptive. I think my only complaint is the open-endedness of it, and the like female love interest isn't that important to the story, which is kind of a bummer. Like I wanted to know more about her. But other than that, it was a really great read. Since I started reading some of the stories in this book, I feel like I need to finish the collection before the end of the year. So wish me luck on that. Maybe I'll do that in October. I'll like continue some of my horror short story reads. So the next decades that I read from were the 1830s and 40s, and I read 16 short stories and poems from Edgar Allan Poe. So Poe is one of my favorites. I'm never getting rid of this book ever. And so I did my first, no, I guess this is my second now. I did my second annotation and wrote my star ratings next to the stories and poems. So the poems that I read The Conqueror Worm, which I gave 4 stars. The Raven, which I gave 5 stars. It's an all-time favorite. It will always be an all-time favorite. Bernice. Oh, from the short stories, I gave Bernice 5 stars. Ligeia, 5 stars. The Fall of the House of Usher, 3 stars. It's not my favorite. I know a lot of people like it. The Oval Portrait, I gave 5 stars. The Mask of the Red Death, I gave 5 stars. The Pit and the Pendulum, I gave 5 stars. And it is my all-time favorite Poe work, at least so far. I still have a lot that I need to read through. The Telltale Heart, I gave 4.5 stars. The Black Cat, I gave 4 stars. The Oblong Box, I gave 3 stars. The Premature Burial, I gave 5 stars. The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, I gave 4.5. The Facts in the Case of M. Vladimir, I gave 3.5 stars. The Cask of Amontillado, I gave 3 stars. And Hop Frog, I gave 3.5 stars. So quite a few from Poe. I love Poe, so it was really easy to read through a bunch of those. And the next decade I had was the 1910s. So I have this H.P. Lovecraft collection, and I actually might replace this one because it is not his complete works, and I would like to have his complete works. But so from H.P. Lovecraft, I read Dagon, and I gave this a 3.5 star. I feel like it was good writing, but the ending just didn't excite me. Like I feel like it was leading up to this thing, and it does have like a cliffhanger ending, but I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite. But again, I'm probably going to read a bunch more of these stories in October. So after the 1910s, I skip ahead quite a bit to the 1970s, where I read The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. 5 stars, absolutely love it. I feel like I haven't given a Ray Bradbury less than 5 stars yet. I think I'm on 4 books of his, and I just love every single one of them. He's one of my favorite writers. Then I skip ahead again to the 2010s. I read Midwinter Blood by Marcus Sedgwick, which I also gave 5 stars. I don't think I would consider this a horror, but I did really enjoy it. And if it wasn't under the horror genre, I probably wouldn't have ever picked up this book. And now it's one that I want on my shelves. Then we skip ahead again to the 2020s, which is where I start to have my DNFs. I read The Patient by Jasper Dewitt, which I DNF'd at 66% because of content. This one was published in 2020. Then I started The Graveyard Shift by ML Rio, which I DNF'd, got really bored really fast. And the last book that I read for Horror Mayhem was the third book in the 5 Penalty series. The title is The Teeth of Dawn. This is the first book in the series. I don't have the last one. I have the first 2, but I will be picking up the last one. This series has quickly become one of my new favorite series of all time. It's definitely in my top 5. It might have bumped out the Greatcoat series, which has been my favorite series of all time for like the last 3 years. But I really, really, really loved this series. If you like horror, fantasy, mystery, a queer normative world, please check this series out. I feel like it is so underrated and so underhyped. I picked up this series on a recommendation from Rachel at The Shades of Orange, and I'm so glad I did. It's so good. My only complaint about this series is that every book that has been printed, and they're all printed by Tor, they're all different heights, and not just like teeny tiny difference in heights. Like it's literally like almost a half an inch or a quarter of an inch between the 3 books. Like I went to Barnes and Noble, which I almost never do, to buy all 3 of them, to rebuy all 3 of them so that I would have the copies in the same height. And on the shelves, they have multiple copies of book 1 that are all the same height. And then book 2 is all the same height, but not the same height as book 1. And then book 3, which just came out this year, book 3 is all the same height, but not the same height as book 2 or book 1. Like all of them are printed different heights. It drives me crazy. So I'm hoping that they will print like a box set of them or something like that so that I can get them all the same height. But they probably won't do that if more people don't read this. So read it. I hope you love it. If you do, let me know because it's one of my favorite series. Moving on from Horror Mayhem, I have been working on completing series off of my shelves. So this was a completed series. This gets my total of completed series read this year up to 3, which isn't much. I wanted to do 10 series this year. We're almost halfway through the year already. I need to pick up the pace. And so last month, I read the first book in 2 different series that I have on my shelves. The Daughters of the Storm. This is a reread for me. I have read the first and second book multiple times. I never read the third book, and it's for a very petty reason. Basically, the first 2 books have this style of cover, which I absolutely love. And then the third book has the like typical YA girl in a dress facing away from the camera, fantasy looking cover, which I absolutely hate. This is not a YA series at all. It has a lot of adult themes. There is violence, there is language, there is sex, this is like Game of Thrones light in a sense. But I love this series. I'm excited to finish it. I started the second book this month, but I didn't finish it. So this will hopefully be my next completed series off of my shelves. And it's another one that I really want more people to read, even though the last, it drives me crazy. I'll put a picture here. And then I also read the first book from the Tales of Ivy Hill series by Julie Klassen. This is The Innkeeper of Ivy Hill. This is a proper romance title, historical romance title. There are multiple couples that you are following throughout this story, and one of them gets happily ever after at the end. But this basically follows this woman who is widowed, and she is given her deceased husband's inn, and she's trying to figure out how to basically keep it in business. This has some really good community building storylines and strong women and great male cast. I don't talk about it very much, but I really do like historical romance and proper romance. I just think that they're a lot of fun. They're comfort reads. They're comfort reads. That's what they are. So another series that I'm starting and hopefully finishing before the end of this year. The last book that I read off of my shelves this month, or started to read, was Parenting with Love and Logic by Foster Cline and Jim Fay. And I got about 34% of the way into this, and it's not a bad book. It's just not for me. This is very Christian focused with raising children or teaching children. And I don't feel like that applies to a lot of the children that I'm around. And so it's not applicable to me or my situation. The last two books that I read or tried to read this last month were both recommendations from multiple people here on YouTube. The first one was Roadside Picnic by Arkady Stragatsky. I sadly DNF'd this at 57%. I just really couldn't get into it. It's supposed to be one of the classic sci-fi stories, and I have only heard great things. The booktubers that I heard talking about this book were Aaron Read a Book, Aaron Hall, and Genre Books. So that's 3 people recommending a book, and unfortunately I DNF'd it. I don't think it was a bad book. It just felt too long for what it was doing, and I kept getting bored. So anyways, the last book that I read in May was my first official Western. And if you guys have been watching my channel, you know that this year I wanted to try Westerns. I've never tried Westerns before, and so that's what I'm doing. And I ended up reading True Grit by Charles Portis. I did a buddy read of this with my dad, which was a lot of fun. He's never read Westerns either, but I guess he's watched both of the True Grit movies, which I haven't. And he liked the movie, so he decided he would read the book with me. We both really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.75 stars. The only reason I don't feel like this is a 5-star read for me is the writing style was just not for me. I don't really like it when authors use the word said over and over and over, and they don't use different words. So he said, she said, he said, she said, he said, they said, she said. I like really just want them to use like exclaimed or questioned or asked or something besides the word said. And so it was one of those things that I kept hearing over and over as I was reading it. Either way, I feel like my first Western read was a success. I'm excited to read more Westerns throughout the year. I have a lot of goals this year, obviously, so just going to try to keep up with all of them. I had this book directly recommended to me by Outer World Media, Dustin Neely, and Hayden Reed, and I will have their channels linked down below. So that is my wrap up for May. I feel like I got a lot more reading done than I have in previous months. It was a lot of fun reading a bunch of short stories. You kind of just fly through those so much faster. I honestly can't wait for June. I have so many fun June reading plans. And as I'm recording this, June is tomorrow. So I'm just really, really excited to be in June and do my June reading. Do you guys have any fun plans for June with your reading? Let me know in the comments down below. My favorite thing about YouTube is talking to you in my comments and in your comments, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.